We got AFC West, KFC Chiefs, and then everybody else, really. We'll talk about it. Bets, parlays. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know the drill. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's tune in. Let's go. Welcome everybody back to another episode of Money Pot Podcast, Money Pot Betting. I am your host. I am the CEO. I'm the president. They call me Moss Money. And of course, we got our own, very own. He's part of the team. He's us. C Sharp, our professional gambler extraordinaire. What's going on, Sharp?
What's going on, Moss? How are you, buddy?
Hey man, a little late night session. Let's get it in. Let's get the people what they want. I think we've been on a roll with some of these other sessions that we've done. So really interesting about this division. AFC West is what we're doing. I think we did the NFC West last week. So thought probably head over to the AFC West. We're talking about the defending, so hard to say that, but it's true, the defending Super Bowl champions in the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Diego Chargers, the Denver Broncos, and the Raiders.
Fuck was that about? Dude, you're weird.
All really interesting. A really interesting division that KC has really just dominated the last couple of years. And we'll start with the Chiefs. We'll start with the champs. I think that over and under is probably high, just like everybody else, 11.5, if I'm not mistaken. We use our dandy handy sports book. Bring it up here real quick. Get our little motto up at the top here. I was looking at win totals already. Division. I think they might be the highest on the division board at minus 180, as it should be. They return a lot of players. I know there was some buzz coming out of camp about that one undrafted. Was he undrafted receiver? I think he might have been, but I think he got hurt. I think he got hurt in camp, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that's going to do to them, but I don't know if it really matters. As long as you got Andy, as long as you got Mahomes, you got Kelce in the mix, that offense is just going to be dynamic. They proved it. They won it. They got rid of Hill, and Hill walked, and they still were able to win it with the Juju Smith-Schusters of the world. And Juju almost had 1,000 yards last year. So it's really if that defense can keep people from scoring, because it's going to be really hard keeping this team from scoring. Pacheco, I know, it's kind of hurt a little bit. I forget that guy's name, man. I think his last name was like Ross or something. Justin Ross.
You talking about Rashee Rice, or you talking about Justin Ross?
I think it was Ross. It wasn't Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is the draft pick. It was Ross.
Justin Ross is the kid from Clemson a bunch of years ago. That, yeah, he had a spiral fracture in his spine. Something he had to sit out 2 years. Yeah, he was a really good college receiver, and he was working his way up, and I guess got nicked up in camp. So today was a bad day for injuries league wide. I saw Russell Gage, wide receiver. He's done for the year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I saw, which is scary, especially for a corner, saw Marlon Humphreys having a foot procedure. Anyone who knows an Eagles fan, Deshaun Jackson, man, anytime he would have a foot procedure right before the season started, man, that dude never finished the season. So if you're a Ravens fan and Marlon Humphrey's already getting work done on his foot as a guy that needs to be laterally quick and explosive and top end speed, that's not a good sign.
And then also the receiver from the Titans, Burke, sprained his LCL. I saw too as well. When I saw that and they said he went down and he got carted off, I was like, holy shit! I was like, that's an ACL or something. But I think they dodged the bullet. Hopefully, he comes back, because that's what you want to do with camp. You want to be, Sorry, had to sneeze.
You're all good. Bless you.
Got it in time. You want your guys to go in there healthy. So, I think I might add a drop or edit to that sneeze. Fuck,
Um,
blow a building
that's
up or
funny.
some shit. um, but yeah, no. Going back to the Kansas City Chiefs, like I said, they're favored to win this division at -180. Kind of a a easy bet. Easy. I think they'll be in almost every divisional parlay you can muster or put together. Well, we might do one once we get to the end here. Might put something together of a division parlay for those bet small, win big folks. But it's hard for me to find a bet anywhere else but the Chargers in this division. Only other bet would be the Chargers. I'm sorry, it's fine for me to find another bet outside of the Chiefs. Only other bet that you can maybe find as a dark horses or underdog is the Chargers. I just don't see it. The Chiefs are just too good. As long as Pat Mahomes is behind center, I'm betting with that guy almost every time, unless it goes against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's hard to know. So, I think most people just easily point to Patrick Mahomes, and I get that. Quarterbacks mean a lot. I mean, I think kind of how Brady won without Belichick kind of cemented that in terms of how a lot of people look at who gets a little bit bigger slice of the pie of credit when it comes to championships in terms of is having a world-class coach and a decent quarterback good, or is it better to have a great quarterback and a decent coach? And I think over time, the quarterback probably does mean a little bit more. But man, there's some good quarterbacks in the AFC West. I just when I look at the difference in the AFC West, it's the fact that they have Mahomes and Andy Reid, and that gap between Andy Reid and I think Sean Payton's awesome, but then there's a huge gap between Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. I think Justin Herbert's fantastic. I don't think there's actually a huge gap between him and Mahomes. Like if you were to give him Andy Reid at coach, the problem is he doesn't have Andy Reid at coach. And I'm not a huge fan of his coach. I'm not one to say that coaches are terrible, but I'm just not a huge fan of the Chargers head coach right now. I think he makes a lot of bad decisions. And personally, when you have a young quarterback, I'm a big fan of having an offensive-minded coach. That's just how I look at it. If you have a 10-year veteran quarterback that's basically his own play caller, then you can have a defensive-minded coach. But nowadays, the way all the rules, everything's set up for offense, man, a guy like Justin Herbert, in my opinion, would be way better off with an offensive-minded coach than Brandon Staley. So when I look at it like that, the Chiefs are they're a juggernaut.
Yeah, and I think you could argue that Andy might be, once he's all said and done, he might go down as a top 3, top 5 head coach of all time. I mean, I don't think that's far-fetched. He could probably argue he might be in that conversation in top 5 all time, as is right now. Everywhere he goes, he wins. Obviously didn't do it with us for the longest time, but very, very successful here. And he changed the way people ran offenses. He most people would run to set up the pass with a lot of play action and stuff. West Coast, he was the opposite. He passed to set up the run. And
Yeah.
that's and then when you get a talented arm, right, to do that with, it becomes almost seamless. All his little bubble screens, his swing passes are all to him like small runs. Being able to do it without big names and big stars and just scheme letting it go. And then when you saw big names, come into play, the T.O.s, the Kelces, when you saw those playmakers that are elite playmakers, they just explode in his offense. I mean, I think they were talking about on I forget what's New Heights on the podcast. If Travis Kelce retired right now, he's going to the Hall.
Oh yeah.
Like if he's a sure enough first ballot Hall of Famer. And he just shines, and you just don't want to you just don't ever want to break up that marriage. And I think they all believe in that. I think that's why you see them kind of hungry, because they want it more. They understand that what they have could be the next dynasty, which they're kind of in the midst of, right? What they won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. So
yeah,
is it 2 years? Yeah, right.
2 in the last 4.
2 in the last 4.
Yes.
but they've been to 3 Super Bowls out of the last 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, yeah. So makes sense. Obviously, we're not going to lay the minus 180, but I wouldn't be mad if you did. If you have the bankroll to do it, and you want to kind of go the opposite way, and you're risking 2 to 1 pretty much. So for every, pretty much $2, you're only going to get $1 back. I get it. They should win the division.
I'm
Let's go. Go ahead.
This is our third show. I mean, we're going to be consistent in how we bet. We're just not going to like pulling the trigger on heavy favorites that have high odds and have high expectations. You'd be better off, like we've talked about, you'd be better off just go ahead and pulling the trigger on Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Chiefs, and we did it on the NFC with the Eagles. Like, you could pick Chiefs, pick a Super Bowl matchup. You could do Chiefs, Seahawks, Chiefs, Niners, Chiefs, Eagles, and play with a couple different matchups. You can do the same thing with division winners. I mean, you could do, like, instead of taking the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs outright, what I would do is take the Bills and the Chiefs into a parlay to win their divisions. And you're just going to get better odds. So your money, like I said, we've talked about, if Vegas or the book that you're using is going to hold your money for months on end, this shouldn't be a single unit bet. So keeping that in mind, you want to get good odds, and minus 150s, minus 160s. Like, I'm just not going to take that for season long props.
Yeah, for sure. And it is becoming some, like you said, a little bit repetitive, and sound like a broken record in terms of how we bet, and kind of getting the gist of what we're looking at and how we're seeing it. So I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but
but I do want to say real quick on their season win total. The one thing that does concern me just a little, not long-term big picture, because I think they'll get it figured out, but Zach Martin and the Cowboys got their thing figured out, and he's back in camp. Well, Chris Jones is not. Yep. Nick Bosa is not. And as an Eagles fan, that's kind of nice. But when I'm looking at 11.5 wins, I'm looking at right off the bat, I'm seeing the Chiefs host the Lions, which we know kicks off the season. Well, if Chris Jones doesn't play because he's like pulling an Emmitt Smith, like, I'll show you, I'm not going to play the first couple of games and you're going to give me what I want, which worked for Emmitt Smith way back when. And then their second game is at the Jaguars, and then their third game is the Bears chasing Justin Fields. Let's just say Chris Jones plays hardball, or let's just say Chris Jones is a little bit out of shape and he's not Chris Jones right out of the gate, and they stumble a couple times. It's hard to get 12 wins in the NFL.
Yeah, and I was looking at that when we were getting ready for the show. Only 8 or 9, I think it was 9 teams last year had over 10 wins. They went 14-3. Now I was just trying to look at their losses. Like, they lost to Buffalo, they lost to the Colts in a weird game, and then they lost to Cincinnati.
The thing about the Chiefs is they're in a ton of close games, and they win more often than not because of Mahomes and Reid. Like, when you think of the Chiefs, it's not blowout city at all. Like, if anything, they don't cover more often than not, and they win because situationally they're just slightly better than most of the good teams in the league. It's not because they're exponentially better across the board talent-wise, to be honest with you. So if Chris Jones isn't Chris Jones, like, I'm just look at the first half of their schedule, especially that first month. Man, there's a lot of good quarterbacks, and if Chris Jones isn't ready to roll, that would concern me.
Yeah, I think it's worth a concern. I just don't see any of these teams being good enough to beat them. Like, I was looking at this schedule, and I'm assuming this game is somewhere abroad. Like, I guess this is a London game, is my thought, since it's at 9:30. So that's always kind of in the air.
They play in Germany this year. They've got the Germany. They've got the Munich game.
Okay, so Miami hasn't been there either. So it should be obviously different for everybody, and for them to get used to playing on that field, that surface, that air, et cetera, those fans. But I don't see, like, maybe the Chargers game. I think they were down in that Jacksonville game in the playoffs, so there's some There's some heat coming here where Jacksonville's going to be up for this game. But I expect them to be 9-0 going into the bye. Like, I really do.
You do?
I,
I don't.
yeah, I expect them to be 9-1, 8, maybe 7-2 at worst going into the bye. Like, I don't see 3 losses here. Like, I just don't. How good is the Jets? We really don't know. Chicago's on the up and up, but like, the way I look at it, even if defensively they're not as good as they were last year, or Chris Jones takes a hit, I just don't think any of these teams can really score with them outside of the Chargers.
So you also got to remember, and I love Andy Reid, like that first game, I don't know if the Lions can clip them. Like, it's just the Lions. Jameson Williams is suspended. Andy
Yeah, I don't
Reid.
think the Lions are. I don't think the Lions
Andy
are as
Reid
good as
off
what people
months to be able to scheme stuff up. Like, that'll be a tough ask. But I will say this about the Chiefs. Here's the thing. They are breaking in 2 new tackles too. And when you look league wide, what you're going to notice for anyone that like pays attention to their team or is paying attention to fantasy, one thing you're going to notice on all these inter scrimmages and all the within their own team scrimmages, the defense is always ahead of the offense because offensive line takes time. Like, it truly takes months for the offensive line to gel, and that's if guys have played together the previous year or 2. Breaking in a couple new tackles, especially when Mahomes is kind of Harry Houdini in and out of the pocket, like, that's not easy for a tackle to always know where he is. It's easy when you've got a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, and he's taken at 7 steps back, he's going to be within 2 or 3 steps, and you just know to protect that area. With Mahomes, like, you got to know to lock on and then drop your hands. You're going to get a holding penalty when he starts running. So it's tough for tackles to get adjusted, and I have noticed that because they tend to just blow through tackles. That's kind of been their MO. They like to spend money elsewhere, and they're not afraid to just turn and burn offensive tackles. But they do start out slow. Like, their protection kind of gets going later in the year.
Yeah, no, I think those are all valid concerns. I don't know
I
how
could
much.
see the Jaguars beating them. I think they'll beat the Lions, and then they're going to turn around and lose week 2 to the Jags on the road. I think that'll be humid. Chris Jones will be out of shape. Those tackles will be out of shape. Mahomes won't be quite dialed in with all of his young receivers. That'll be a shootout, and I could see Jaguars just being able to score more than they can.
And that's what I said. At worst, 2 losses going into the bye week, and that's what I said. At worst, like, I could see them losing. I think Jacksonville gets up in this game. I think Jacksonville felt like they could have beat them in the playoffs. I don't know if Andy has a similar record than Belichick against old assistants. That'd be something to look at as like a little trend going into that game. What's Andy's record against his old assistants or not? But I can see, like I said, I can see them losing here, but I just don't see any other loss. Maybe the Chargers, but they've always had the Chargers number. It's at home too. They'll beat Denver twice. They'll beat Minnesota. I feel confident they'll beat New York. I think Chicago is a little maybe interesting, but I just don't think Chicago's defense is good. It can stop Mahomes from scoring. So it'll be really interesting. I think the line is right where it should be, 11 and a half. I don't mind the 12 and a half alt if you wanted to go that route. But for my first best bet, I'm okay laying the number on here. I like the over here. It's a little high. It's pricey. But I like the over here, over 11 and a half minus 134 for my first best bet. I just think there's just there is some hangover, Super Bowl hangover. There's a real thing. I get it. Maybe some of those games are going to be tougher than others, because they know how to turn it on late. But for me, I don't see a lot of losses on this schedule here at all. I just don't think these teams are good enough offensively. This is going to be an amazing game Monday night. Oh my God. Woo! At home, Philly coming to KC. Jesus.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because that's an interesting stretch for the Chiefs right there. That's like you said, that's the Germany game against the Dolphins, and then they come home and get a bye, and then Andy Reid's tough off a bye, but it's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's tough at home, so yeah.
No, this is in KC. This is in KC.
Or that's what I mean. I don't know why I said tough. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That'll be tough for us, the Eagles.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know, like the Miami game. I don't know Germany. Man, I don't know those Miami games or those international games.
Yeah, they're
with
funny.
a guy like Tyreek Hill. I guess you just never know.
Yeah, you never know. Okay,
I do think they win 12 games, but I would, like I said, I would take them and combine it with somebody else.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can parlay the shit out of stuff. We just haven't really haven't because I know me and you are not huge parlay guys, and if we do parlays, they're no more than 3. Like 3 is probably 3, 4 is probably pushing it on a parlay. Like I know some of y'all be watching shows and they got these give it to you hot, 10-team parlays, and I get it. We all want to bet $100 and win 10 grand and 11 grand, but just the consistency of being able to do that and hit those is just very not a high clip. Straight bets, 2-team parlay, money line type bets. So those bets are more obtainable and you can do it at a more consistent clip. But remember, your average quote unquote professional bettor, they're only hitting 54, 55%, So, and your regular your recreational guy is probably more under 50%, like 48, 47. Maybe good ones are like 52, 53. Money pot's close to 60, but we won't talk about that. But like I said, I'm okay laying the line here. I like, getting 12 wins, going 12-5. I don't see 5 teams beating them outside of some type of freaky weird injury. Knock on wood for all those guys. So, give me KC over 12.5 wins. I feel pretty confident about this. I'll pay the number on it, even though it is a very high number, which you don't want to do. But I really like the bet. All right, let's keep going down the line here because we got 3 of them right in a row. We'll jump all the way to the bottom. We did the top of the top. We'll go to the bottom of who looks like going to be one of the worst teams in this division. The Las Vegas Raiders at over 6.5 wins. Jimmy Graoppolo gets to start. There was some little bit of a doubt if he was even going to play because he had to pass his physical. He did that already. This roster, obviously, they got off a Derek Carr. Well, shit, I can't remember his name. What's his name? What's the head coach's name? Damn, I can't forget his name. Is it Daniels?
Who?
Isn't it Daniels, the head coach of the Raiders?
McDaniels.
Yeah. So
Josh
McDaniels. I wanted to say John. I don't know what it was. But Josh McDaniels gets a quarterback he knows. Obviously Devontae Adams, arguably the best receiver in the game. They had a pretty decent draft, I would say, getting the kid from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson. So we see what he has, and then they followed it out back with Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, so they can run those kind of.
Who supposedly's had a phenomenal camp, by the way. Apparently, he's done really well for himself, and I think Tyree Wilson was actually just activated today. So good news for the Raiders, which is good. Yeah,
and then I've always been an Austin Hooper fan. I like Austin Hooper. He's over there too, so you get those 2 tight end sets. I know, and this place has some, kind of, if you think about it, if you look at the roster, has some New England guys, right? Jimmy was New England. Hoyer was in New England. Jacoby Myers was in New England. Austin Hooper was in New England. There's probably some Chandler Jones is from KC, right? Yeah. Jones was in KC.
Jones played. Played for New England.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was right there. My fault. Chandler Jones was in New England. So they got some guys who know the scheme, who know how Josh Daniels is. I know Josh Jacobs is the odd. Did Josh Jacobs sign his tender? I don't remember.
He
Is he
did.
still out there?
He's yet to. He's yet to. He's still been holding
Okay.
out.
He's still holding out. Okay. So, the running back thing, obviously, he went off last year. So that's a huge thing to get him back so they can see what this offense is really like. But their offense is really not that bad if Jacobs is motivated to play. And we already know about Max Crosby and that defense. So, I think they got Marcus Peters too, as a good vet as a corner. Now he's not Marcus Peters of old, but he's
Yeah,
still better than
and they
what they
drafted
have.
that J.K. Bennett, the Maryland kid, the kid that played opposite Deontay Banks. So, like you touched on, they're supposed to have had a good draft. I know they're really happy. They drafted that defensive tackle Byron Young from Alabama.
Yeah,
They're
they got
happy
him.
with.
Yeah. He's a
So,
good player. He's
and
a
it
really good
sounds
player.
like that Purdue quarterback Aiden O'Connell. Man, sounds like maybe they lucked into a decent little like Kirk Cousins level backup down the line that could be a starter someday. So, yeah, from everything I've heard, the Raiders have had a really good draft and they're happy with their rookies so far.
Yep.
It's hard to anticipate 4 or 5 rookies having a big impact on a season. That just doesn't really happen very often. But it did for the Chiefs last year, so you never know.
So looking at their schedule, they were at 6.5 wins. Is the over or under? I don't know what this team is, so I don't have a bet for them. Looking at their schedule, they have something similar to KC where they go through the full schedule and they don't get a bye until like later on. They don't get a bye to week 13. The question is is Jimmy going to last 12 games? That's the big question because he's gotten hurt damn near almost every year. But the one thing about Jimmy, man, he knows how to win football games. Like his record as a starter is great. So he's going to come in and know this offense. I remember reading that he started off shaky, but he picked up as he got kind of the rust knocked off and got loose a little bit here. I just don't know what to think about this offense. I don't know what it's going to be like. Who knows if Jacobs is there? The defense should be solid. Playing in Vegas is similar to playing. It is kind of like the black hole a little bit. It is a tough place to kind of play in. They got a fucking crazy schedule to start it off with Denver, at Buffalo, and at the Chargers. 3 out of those 4 games, and Pittsburgh ain't no slouch either. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this team. I don't really have much on them outside of I was betting anything. It's going to be on Devontae Adams props. But other than that, I'm not really sure what to make of this kind of Vegas team. I think I'll just sit back and hold and watch.
Yeah. I if anything, I'm leaning towards the under, to be honest with you.
Wow. Yeah. You see 10 losses?
I think it really comes down to how you look at, and we'll get into my best bet here in a little bit. We'll look at, to me, at how it comes down to Denver. I think however you think Las Vegas and Denver do head to head, I see 9 losses. I see at least 8 losses, not in counting those games playing Denver. So if they lose both to Denver because Denver's decent, then that's going under. If they split, it still may go right there. So I see a lot of losses. I really do. I don't know. I think their schedule's tough. I just don't. I think they're too young in too many key places for them to be good enough to take that big enough jump. And I just see them losing a ton of competitive games. I don't see them getting blown out and being like unwatchable per se, but I just could see them losing like 7 or 8 one-possession games.
Yeah, you're riding with the book because the book has them at -138 under 6.5 wins. So
yeah, and I don't. Man, the thing when I look at them is I just don't know why the Broncos are 2 wins higher than the Raiders. I look at both these teams and I think they should both be probably a little bit closer to 7.5 each. Does that make sense? But in that sense, I cannot take the Raiders and bet over on them. So I think if anything, I would actually lean to taking Denver's under as my best bet of this division, because I just think 8.5. I think people are giving Sean Peyton too much credit. I just don't think Russell Wilson's Russell Wilson anymore, and their offensive line stinks. So I'm with you on the Raiders. Stay away. I think it really comes down to I'm so ready for week 1. We've already touched on some matchups like the Cowboys and Giants and where it'll send those two teams. Well, look at week 1 in this division. Whoever loses out of the Broncos and Raiders, it's going to feel like their season's over. And that's just the way the NFL goes.
Week 1, it's over.
Well, you know what I mean? You just said look at their schedule. If you think of if you lose all of a sudden to the Broncos week 1 and then you're looking at what'd you say, the Bills?
Yeah, it's the Bills. Yeah.
So now you're 0-2. Now the sky's definitely fallen. And you've yet to play the Chiefs or the Chargers twice. So see what I'm saying? Like the season can snowball fast.
Yeah, facts. So I just put up Denver, and you said, you're on best bet under 8.5 wins.
Yeah, like I just see those two teams as mirror images of each other, and I don't know for whatever reason. I guess they're saying Sean Payton's worth 2 more wins than Josh McDaniel, and I just don't see it that way.
Yeah, it's hard. Russ was so bad.
Yeah,
last year.
And if they're talking about like Russ has lost his athleticism, so if you're telling me that Sean Payton's like, oh, he's going to turn into a Drew Brees and it's going to be short pocket pass, pocket's going to be clean, well, there's a problem. Denver's O-line's not that good. So, I mean, Russ is going to be running around anyway. So, man, I don't know. I see issues ahead for Denver. And most people, this is going to sound crazy. Most people think that Sean Payton said all those things like blasting the previous regime and the front office dropped the ball too for letting it all happen. Well, I think that's, and they're saying like that was his way of firing up Russell Wilson. I think that's his way of letting the owner know if they're bad again this year, it's not my fault. Like Russell Wilson's cooked and you need to let me like really clean house. So I think it's bad news ahead.
Yeah, it's really tough to look because I mean I like Javonte Williams, I like Judy. I mean Cortland Sutton is decent enough. I think they had a rookie they drafted, right? I forget his name.
I love their rookie. Yeah, Mims out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, Marvin Mims. That's what it was.
Yeah. And he'll have to play because KJ Hamler had the heart issue, and then their other wide receiver went down with injury. So,
yeah, but those guys, Peyton, that's a Peyton type guy, right? Fast, twitchy, small, shifty. That fits his MO a lot. And Judy's route running, we've seen is like just.
But in the AFC West, it sounds crazy. Like that's just everyone's got good wide receiver core.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, the last time Denver had a receiver like that in that mode, I can't remember. That was somewhat good and going to play. And Judy is ready to be a number 1 in my opinion. I think he's that good. Route running is unbelievable. It's just if Russell can get him the ball on a consistent basis or not. I mean, Russ used to have a good deep ball, but Judy was more short intermediate. I mean, he can go deep, but his bread and butter is short and intermediate. So Russ has got to be consistent in terms of delivering the ball as well. And I think Russ can, but like you said, this is not Seattle Russ when Russ is carrying the whole team. Like, this is not that Russell Wilson. This is a different Russell. This is an older Russell Wilson that's been in the league. What he's been in the league. He's going to 8, 9 years already, maybe 10 years almost.
Yeah.
So a lot of wear and tear, a lot of bumps and bruises. He's not, that 40 touchdown guy anymore, 35 touchdown guy anymore. So, we'll see if he can be re-energized by Sean Payton and putting him in successful positions to win. I think Sean Payton is smart enough to understand what Russell's limitations will be, and he'll scheme obviously away from that to help them. I like the bet still. I'm not saying I don't. Like I still like the bet because I don't think Russell is Russell, and I don't think this team is as good as the books say it is. But I think Sean, like you said, Sean Payton gave him a safer way out. But I think Sean Payton kind of changed culture shock, right? Changed the culture because didn't Russ have like an office next to the coaches or some crazy shit? Or supposedly was the rumor was like he had a like he didn't
Yeah.
like he didn't have like he didn't stay with like the guys in the locker room.
Yeah,
Like he had his
his
own
locker
personal
room was in
shit.
an office or something.
Yeah, like it was in an office, like upstairs or something away, or like some fucking weird entitlement shit, like some crazy shit. So, and the schedule is not good, right? Let me bring it up real quick to even support your bet of the under 8.5 here. We got Vegas division game. Washington ain't no cakewalk. Then at Miami, at Chicago, at New York. Then you got KC sandwich twice in a row, and with Green. I mean, so you have KC and then Green Bay sandwich in between, but you have, you know, this is like a trap. This Green Bay game, you just look at it, it's like a trap game,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? With KC coming right, and then you got to bye, and then you go right at Buffalo.
Yep.
Like their first 10 weeks is brutal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Brutal.
and then you got that 3-game stretch of you got Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's shootout. You got to be ready to put up points.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think Cleveland's going to be decent. And then to end the season, you got 3 divisional games out of the last 5.
Yeah.
So I really like
I was saying when I basically look at the Broncos and Raiders for anyone out there betting, I mean, they start the season against each other, they finish the season against each other. However you kind of feel about those two teams, it's really going to come down to their head-to-head, in my opinion, as to how their over-under go. And I anticipate them splitting. And so for that reason, basically how I look at this is the only way Denver hits their over and goes 9 wins and goes 9-8 is if they sweep the Raiders. And I just don't think that necessarily is going to happen. Now, like we've talked about before, this isn't going to be one of my bigger bets overall. Like this isn't like Seattle. This isn't like betting the Jaguars. This isn't that heavy of a bet. This would be kind of like a middle of the road. But of the value I see of all the 4 just individual teams, I think I like the under on this one the most.
Yeah, I really like it. I think I'm going to make it a second best bet for me too as well. I really like it. I don't see them winning 9 games. I just don't. Like to me, for them to win 9 games, Russell has to have an MVP type season, and I'll bet against that for sure. Yeah. I'll bet against that. So I like it. I think it's a great bet. All right, last team in the division is the Los Angeles.
Yeah, LA Chargers.
LA Chargers. Herbert got paid big time. 9.5 wins is the number. That offense is absolutely loaded. 3 dynamic receivers. We already know the right route running ability from Keenan Allen, as long as the dude can stay healthy. And you can kind of say that about Mike Williams. Mike Williams gets banged up too during the year too. So those guys can stay healthy.
I think that's why they drafted Quentin Johnson, though, right? I mean, the thought process is you lose one of those two. I mean, like you just said, neither one of those guys have proven they can stay healthy. But now you basically put another one of those guys in the mix. So if one goes down, you still have 2. I think last year the problem was one would go down, and it was basically he had one read or dump it off to Eckler, and that offense kind of got too predictable.
Yeah, and then I was reading something else too that he's got one of the bigger arms in the league, and those guys. I mean, Mike Williams is, but Keenan is more that intermediate, short type route runner. Quentin can at least open this up a little bit to let him air it out.
I feel like he's going to be like a DK Metcalf. Like Mike Williams is that jump ball guy. Keenan Allen is your move the chains route runner. And now you've got that guy that can just run by everyone, kind of do your DK Metcalf, maybe just run 3 or 4 routes. But even if it's bubble screens, hitches, deep posts, and go balls, like, hey, he's still tough to cover.
Yeah, and then the tight end's not half bad either. Everett, he's
Yeah.
somewhat decent too as well. So they got a loaded offense with a talented quarterback. I don't know how good Justin Herbert can be. I mean, the numbers suggest that he's on a trajectory as being, one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. Obviously, being in a heavily passed league. But like you said, I talked about this before. My formula of picking division winners and picking good teams is that head coach and quarterback marriage. And this one is not that good because Staley is not what we consider, I would think, head coach. Very head scratching moments of plays he's called and going for it. He just seems like he doesn't have a feel for the game, and he got to rely on his analytics to make good calls, but he just doesn't have a real feel of game flow in the game, how the game progresses, and when to make the calls and right and not. They got pretty decent offensive lines. I think Slater from Northwestern. I think Rashawn Slater from way back in the day.
He got
From
hurt last year,
Northwestern.
so we'll see.
Yeah. So we'll see if he can slide in and be that left tackle they need. And that defense is decent. I forgot Khalil Mack was on this team when I was looking at him.
Yeah.
Um, Even though Khalil Mack is not the Khalil Mack of what we remember back in Chicago, but he's still somebody who's going to put pressure on this defense. They got Bosa on the other side, who came on kind of strong. Eric Kendricks. Is that Eric? Yeah, Eric Kendricks
Yeah.
from
He
Minnesota.
went out there from Minnesota.
Yeah, so UCLA guy too, back out west, Darwin James, Santi Samuel. So they got some names on that defense. Was it Tupelo? I think it is how you say his
Yeah,
last name.
Thule. Yeah.
Tuli
I don't, I
Okay.
don't know. I haven't heard much about him as a rookie this year in camp and how he's doing. Tuli Pelotu.
Yeah,
Um,
you got it.
yeah, I don't know how he's doing. He's, the young kid. I haven't heard much. I haven't heard nearly as much about him as I have about Quentin Johnston. So,
Yeah. And I remember the Eagles were looking at him at one point, coming up in the draft too. So
yeah.
another pass rusher just in case Bosa, Khalil Mack gets hurt. So going through the roster, just giving you guys a sense of what they have, who's coming back. The core is back. Obviously, we know what Eckler can do. I thought Isaiah Spiller would have came on a little bit stronger than he did last year, so I'm not sure what
Yeah.
he is just yet. But maybe this year might be could be a little bit of breakout year for him or not. But looking at this team, looking at the wins, 9.5 minus 128, unders 9.5. Number looks about right. I don't have a bet for them though. It's just a. I mean, they won. I think they won 10 games last year, and I guess you could argue that they got better this year. They got a bye week early and then a long stretch of games. Right? They have a bye week in the fifth game, and then they go Dallas, KC, Chicago, New York, Detroit, Green Bay, Buffalo, New England, Denver, Vegas. Like they play a lot of good quarterbacks. Miami, Minnesota, Tennessee. They play some upper echelon of quarterbacks. So I would actually lean under here a little bit here. I think 9-8 makes a lot of sense to me. Don't know how good this defense is going to be. We got a lot of names, but they still got to perform. Khalil Mack is not the Khalil Mack of old, so don't let the name fool you. Even though he can probably still ball, but I can see them going 2-2 in those four games. Right? Dallas is going to be a shootout. KC is going to be a shootout. The Jets could be a shootout maybe, but then you're going to New York cross coast. And then you go back home for Detroit, and then you go back across coast for Green Bay, and then you go back home for Baltimore, and then you go back across for New England. Like that's a tough sled
Yep.
traveling back and forth across the country. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for 7 weeks. You're going back and forth, back and forth. There's no like consistency. All their games are away, home, away, home, away, home, away, home. So, looking at the schedule, looking at this team, looking at the quarterbacks they play, It's not a best bet, but I would lean here to the under 9.5 wins. I think they get just the 9. Maybe swing, they might get 10. But I find it hard for them to be a 10 or 11 team. Unless Herbert has some magical MVP year.
So when I look at the Chargers, a bet that I like is I like them to finish second in the division and exactly second, and it pays plus 175.
Where do you see that bet? Is that on FanDuel or is that a DraftKings bet?
I was looking at trying to find draft. Moved over to DraftKings special division specials. Yeah. So you can pick the team like to finish first. Like you can pick them exactly what they're going to finish in the division. And I think them to finish second is just a lock. Like we talked about the other two teams probably going to struggle. We talked about the Chiefs are just far and ahead better. Plus 175 to finish second in the division. Like that to me, I mean, this team is going to win 9 to 11 games, kind of right at their win total. But man, give me second place plus 175. Like this is a really strong play.
Yeah, let me. I'm going over there right now. Yeah, division specials. I see it. Division specials.
Yeah, and then go to division standings.
Let's show the people the money. I like it. Switch it up a little bit. Go to DraftKings. Division specials, division standings. And then you got the Chargers second. Look at that. That's a heavy bet right there.
I like it's. I mean, you're getting nearly 2 to 1 on something that's man hard to imagine them not hitting that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's just like I don't think they can catch the Chiefs, and I don't think those other two teams can catch them. Like, so you don't even have to worry about necessarily how many wins they get. It's just kind of where they're slotting, and yeah, I think it's a pretty strong play personally.
And then it's these overreaction to Peyton and Russ because look at Denver. Denver's never mind. Denver's plus 270. I thought it was third. I thought this was second. So they're plus 270. And then what are the Raiders? It would be LA Raiders, right?
Should be right there, yeah.
Yeah, plus 750. Jesus. Yeah, that's a great gem right there. I think that's a solid fucking bet right there. I like it. I think I'll add that as what's added? Third best bet. LA Chargers to finish second on DraftKings. This is why you shop around, folks. It's why you look around because they got all kind of like exact 1, 2. Right. So what's that?
You can, the thing that they're not offering exact order for the AFC West. I think it's because it's too easy. Like we were just talking about, they're not offering, they are 1, 2 exact, but not like 1 through 4.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
I don't know why they are on some divisions, but not on all of them. It's probably because some are too easy to predict. Like we were just saying, I think it's pretty easy who's going to finish 1 and 2 in that division. It would just come down to who you think is going to finish worse, the Broncos or the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a good fucking bet, bro. Good call, good gem. I like it.
I mean, that's what we're here for. We're trying to make people money. Like it's when I look at sports betting, it's the same as stock market. Like people are scouring for futures, scouring for all kinds of options trading. I mean, it's day trading commodities. Like the beauty about sports betting is it's growing and it's such a new industry that there's so many things that I don't even think about that just analytical guys are hitting on baseball and basketball. And you just got to if you're into sports and you have access to the internet, you can go to a library in a legal state. I mean, there's ways to just make it happen for yourself. Man, just go out there and cruise, spend 2 hours, go to the library, whatever, go home, we're at home, be on your phone, internet, and just look for good bets. Like if you know your team, there's easy money out there. Like books are offering so much that I don't even know if they can keep track of how many bets that they're offering.
You sound like Mo's fucking money there, buddy. That's what you sound like. I like that type of talk, man. Just like I tell people all the time, you can teach this shit like you teach the stock market. Just got to study the market, baby. Just got to understand the even flows. There's peaks and valleys to it. When you're hot, you're hot. Just know how to minimize the losses when they do come, and then keep this thing, keep these thing going. It can be easy money. It could be very frustrating. You can lose all your money. You can lose all your money in the stock market as well. But this is very, very similar to that. You have to understand market trends and statistics to be a very good bettor. It's not just like, oh, I think the Eagles are going to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Why? Tell me why. Break it down. Get to the nitty gritty of why this is going to do it. There's all kind of things that can support your theory. Find the best ones. Find the right ones. Make the bet, and just sit back and get the cash.
Yep. And shop around. If you do it, find the right way to bet it. There's so many ways to bet things, like I said, if you do like Chiefs, and which isn't crazy, like if you think a rematch is going to happen in the Super Bowl, instead of betting those teams individually, like combine that bet. And there's books out there that'll literally offer you bets to just pick the Super Bowl matchup. You don't even have to pick who wins that game. If both the teams you pick are in that Super Bowl, you're going to make a lot of money, like a lot of money. Like all those pay out 30 to 40 to 1, even good teams. So
Yes,
look for it.
All right. I usually always end with my wide receiver parlay bet of receivers in the division going over 1,000 yards. I want to bring up some receiving numbers because I just want to see, is Davante Adams never had 1,000-yard season? Like, it's got to be like his rookie year. Has to be.
What are you saying? Has he ever not?
Yeah, has he ever not have 1,000 yards?
Yeah, I mean, it took him a couple years to get going in Green Bay. He didn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't dominant as a rookie, and I don't even think he was dominant his second year. I think it was his third or fourth year.
Yeah, it was his third or fourth year when he really started picking up. And then after
he played basketball in college. He was like a dual sport athlete. Like he was trying to be a hooper, and then that didn't work, and then he took football seriously. I mean, he was like a jump ball specialist in college for Derek Carr, and then the rest is history when he got to the league.
Yeah, and
he wasn't like a proven like commodity like a AJ Brown, like right out of the gate dominating. It took him a few years. Like Aaron Rodgers has talked about, like practicing with him after practice. Like, well, I think he knew that Davante Adams had a chance to be special. He just took time.
Yeah, agreed. I'm seeing that now. So first and foremost, always Kelce. I think that's a no-brainer. Who else we got here? So it's real interesting because you got Judy, you got Keenan, you got Mike Williams is in that division. Let's see who else is up here. Obviously, Davante Adams, who we were just talking about. Sutton is in here as a late, but that's all they have. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm a big Keenan Allen fan. I love Keenan Allen. But I think that I'm going to have to go with Judy, man. I think Judy gets there.
Okay. I like it.
I think Judy gets there. And then I guess I'll go with old reliable here. It'd be hard for him not to get 1,000 yards. Kelce, Judy, and Adams, 3-way parlay, over 1,000 yards. Another best bet. I didn't think I had so many good bets. I mean, well, they're good bets, but I didn't think I would bet so much on this division. Almost 4-1 on this bet.
I like that. That's it. I mean, I like it.
I'm scared of Judy though. Scared of Judy a little bit. But he had 970 yards with nobody last year. Who was the Denver's quarterback last year?
Well, I mean, it was the other Russ. They're hoping it was the
It was Russ. I'm
That's what I'm
damn.
saying. It was the other. It was the other Russ.
Yeah,
they're hoping it's
was
they're
Russ.
hoping it's the split personality Russ.
Yeah, it was Russ. That's right. And he had 972 yards with that Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he gets there. He's going to be a big part of this offense for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. Does he explode and have a blow up year? He has the talent to, but I don't know. Like we always say, if Russell can deliver it or not. But I think he gets there regardless. I think he gets 1,000 yards for sure. Yeah,
I like that.
I'm good with this 3. Yeah. All right. Anything that you saw in DraftKings since we had it open before we shut it down for the night?
Well, just outside of the division. So one of my favorite bets is I think 2 of the better bets in the AFC is I love taking the Chiefs and the Jaguars, and I think those 2 teams are locks to win their division. And instead of betting them individually to win their division, I would combine that and parlay it that both of them win their division, and that'll pay much better.
Let's bring it up real quick.
Like I said, these are all season-long props. The book's going to have our money for months on end, so I like getting plus value. I hardly bet anything at negative value for months long. Hold my money. That's just not how I look at life, really. When it comes down, I look at these as mini investments, just like you would projecting a stock for 90 days to 6 months, and they're holding your money. So you want to make sure you're not just like betting $140 to win 100, in my opinion.
Facts. Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
So whatever you're comfortable with in terms of units, I don't know. It should be multiple units. You should be betting 5 to 10 units on these bets, in my opinion.
Yeah, if the bankroll allows it, of course.
Right. And if you're not at that point, in my opinion, then you should learn to build up your bankroll by getting good at betting weekly. And then as you learn, then you can progress maybe the next season into doing some futures.
Yeah, it's the long game. Always remember that. You know what I mean? It's the long game in terms you're not going to get rich quick.
Nope.
Right? It's not going to happen fast. It's the long game and getting better and better. Now, saying that, you need to understand. Obviously, we do this for, there's always a disclaimer that I put on our videos. It's all for, we're not professional well, Sharp is, but he does this for a living. But me being the owner of the show, I'm not a professional gambler, and I only do this for recreational as a side hustle and entertainment purposes. But there are keys to life and gems that we can drop for you here. And please take care of your bankroll and your bankroll management as always, just like you would anything else. So you have to understand, most professional bettors over the long run, it's hard to find one who's been profitable for like 50 years, right? Like it's just so hard to find them. Are they out there? Sure. And we call those legends in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. But one of them just released a book, Billy Walters.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
And him, one of the best bettors of all time. If anyone was into it, read his book. He spent time in jail. He was so good at one point. He thought the mafia was after him because they thought that he was buying information from medical staffs of NFL teams because like they just didn't know how someone was possibly this good, and that was their only conclusion. And maybe he did some shady stuff. So, I mean, even the best of the best in this industry, and it's kind of like stock market. Like you just got to accept losing as part of this.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So that is another one in the books, ladies and gentlemen. AFC West is in the books. We got a couple more divisions to go. The season's right around the corner. Make sure you get your bets. If not, if you're taking notes every show, make sure you write down on circle. We've done a lot of bets, right? A lot of bets have been talked about and said, multiple units, a lot of money on the line here. So make sure you take care and take the best bets that work for you and your bank.
I really like that Chargers bet. Just to be really clear at the end of everything I've said today, of the bets that I've personally put money on, that Chargers bet is the one I've personally risk the most, followed by that 2-team parlay to win their divisions of the Jags and Chiefs. So just to be clear, like I'm telling you what I'm betting. So
yeah. And we always got receipts. Always got receipts, man. So this is Moss Money. This is Money Pop Podcast. This is Money Pop Betting. That's C Sharp. We'll see you guys next week for the next round. We're out of here.
see you.